Madam Deputy Speaker, and I'd like to thank my honourable friend from Brent East for introducing this incredibly important International Women's Day debate. And it always is well attended, but it is also one of the most informative and heartfelt debates that we have in Parliament. And I am incredibly proud to be taking part in this day's debate as the chair of the Women and Equality Select Committee. And it's been said that we've had quite a flying start. We have done a lot, but I answer with the fact that there is a lot to do. The International Women's Day theme, it's already been said, is accelerate action, and we know that we cannot slow down. We do have to accelerate, and not just words, but with action. So, on behalf of my whole committee, I am very proud to say that we won't be slowing down anytime soon. Yeah. We have focused our work in less than a year very much on key areas, and following on from the fantastic work of the previous committee as well, particularly around health. And last year we produced a report around women's reproductive health, and it was titled Medical Misogyny. And some people said that's quite strong, but quite frankly, we couldn't describe the evidence that we had seen in the inquiry as anything other than medical misogyny. Diagnosis for adenomyosis and endometriosis, on average 8 years. That's average. So there are people waiting much longer than 8 years for diagnosis, not treatment, diagnosis. Women being ignored, being left in pain. The amount of women that I know that have got adenomyosis or endometriosis eventually, who had been fobbed off time and time again from medical practitioners and from doctors, told, have some paracetamol and a hot water bottle and a lie down and you'll be fine. Again, another example where women are ignored at the detriment of their health, but also our country's health and our economy's health as well. Painful procedures still taking place for women without any offer of pain relief. Hysteroscopies, IUD fittings, sharp pinch. No, not a sharp pinch. Not a sharp pinch. Not on my Nelly is that a sharp pinch. And again, that sort of pain that women have to endure. I am grateful that men don't have to, but why is it that women still have to? Even though the guidelines have changed, women are still having to go through incredibly painful procedures without the relief that they deserve. And in terms of education, one of the other recommendations from our report was clear that we need to educate our young people better as to what to expect for women's reproductive health. That goes for boys as well as girls. We need to end this stigma of periods and period poverty in particular, but also for young people to know what is normal. We were quite often told that it's normal that your period's going to hurt, that you are going to bleed, that you're going to be uncomfortable, but it is not normal to be curled up in bed for 7 days. No. It is not normal for your periods or for your menstrual cycle to be so painful you cannot go to school, you cannot take part in PE, you cannot go to work. All of these things are not normal, yet we have been ingrained in ourselves that it is normal for us to be in pain, it is normal for our lives to be disrupted by our hormones and everything that's happening with our body, and it's not. It frankly isn't. So that is why one of the recommendations was very clear that we need to do better to educate ourselves and our young people and enable our educators to have the tools and the resources to ensure the next generation of women and young men know exactly what happens to a woman's body. And when it comes to research, this was something that stuck out in my mind when we were doing the report. Far too much research has been tailored towards men and men's medical needs. We know that the average paracetamol dose, for example, is actually the correct dosage for a Western male, not for a woman. It's the same for seat belts and everything else. But here's something for you. 5 times more research goes into erectile dysfunction, which affects 19% of men, than PMS, which affects 90% of women. So when we are talking about action, we need to see it across the board, particularly in health. And there is progress, absolutely. I'm so proud that we're going to be seeing the Employment Rights Bill come forward next week. But there is always ways to improve, always. And the committee has produced a report in January that looks specifically at miscarriage bereavement leave. This is an issue that is very close to my heart, and I know many in this chamber and outside of this chamber have campaigned long for the right to grieve the loss of a pregnancy following miscarriage at work. And we've seen some movement, and that is incredibly welcome. Now is time for action. There are thousands of employers out there that already offer bereavement leave for workers that miscarry. And many of them are private sector employers, and they're not doing it out of the kindness of their hearts, let's be honest. They're doing it because it is financially a rewarding thing to do, it's reputationally good, and it's good for your workers. There are massive companies like TUI, who I went to visit last week at the hangar in Luton Airport, and yeah, I did not contain the inner child within me when I sat in a cockpit, I will tell you that. But once I'd gathered myself, I said, where are all the women engineers? And they said they're really struggling, they want to have more women engineers. Where are your women apprentices? They have fantastic apprenticeships there. And they are so right, and they're ready. And I said, what are your workplace policies for miscarriage? And they said, do you know what I wish more people knew? They offer time off for grief, for miscarriage bereavement leave. So there are companies out there that are doing the right thing and trying to make sure that the workplace is right for women. The co-op group is another one. But looking at public sector employers, the NHS offers miscarriage bereavement leave for its workers. The NHS, the largest public sector employer of women in our country, offers bereavement leave for those that miscarry. And I have had them sat in front of me in two different committees, one at the Public Accounts Committee pre-election and one now as Women and Equality Select Committee. And I asked them twice, how much does this cost? The Chief Finance Officer for the NHS said de minimis. Translation, basically nothing. But it is not costing them anything to offer this. If anything, it's saving them. Yeah. In terms of staff retention, in terms of length of time off sick. When you do not grieve well and you do not have the space to grieve and the time to grieve, you store up problems longer term. Yeah. And I think society has caught up with that. It's time, the law has, because the difference that a change in law here could make is one that not only did we hear about in the Select Committee from the women that were brave enough to give testimony to their experiences of multiple miscarriages, of having to drive themselves to hospital because their partner or their husband couldn't take time off and nearly bleeding to death along the way. I know the difference it could make when I had, and how angry I was when I had to take sick pay. When I had my 3 miscarriages, people were really lovely. I was very open about it. But not one single person said to me, get better soon. They said, I'm sorry for your loss. Now, if society has moved on and realises that miscarriage and pregnancy loss is a loss and not a sickness, it's time our law did as well. Yeah. Thank you. In terms of maternal health, I know that there will, as has already been mentioned from my good friend from Birmingham Erdington in her intervention, I know that we'll hear more about the need to close the gap on maternal death rates for black mothers. Chloe and Tanike at 5 times more are doing fantastic work on this, and I praise everybody that is working to close that gap because it is much needed. And yesterday at the Select Committee we heard evidence on female genital mutilation, FGM. There are an estimated 137,000 victims of FGM in our country. I fear that actually that number is much higher from the evidence that we heard yesterday in terms of the levels of underreporting, and that there was much noise and much movement and progress made 10 years ago, but that progress has stalled. Some of the training manuals for doctors and midwives are 10 years out of date. They are well past time for review. And in this time that we've had this movement in the last 10 years, we've seen about 3 prosecutions for FGM. I know that actually prosecution isn't perhaps where we need to be. I don't want to predetermine the outcome of a report, but prevention is a huge part of this answer, and we will present our report accordingly. Another area which we have produced a report is around technology, and I know that my honourable friend has already touched on this, but we produced a very chunky report on non-consensual intimate image abuse. NCII. It's a deeply personal crime which can have life-changing and life-threatening consequences, as the lived experience of inquiry witness Georgia Harrison demonstrates. The committee heard shocking evidence of its scale and impact, with a tenfold increase in just 4 years, and reported cases of more than 22,000 in 2024. Every victim of a sexual offence deserves to be treated with respect and have their case investigated promptly and effectively by the police. However, that is not what we heard. In many cases, police treat victims of intimate image abuse has been characterised by a lack of understanding, and in some cases misogyny, with officers choosing to patronise victims rather than support them. This is totally unacceptable and must change. We of course welcome the government's proposals to make creating NCII an offence, but a legal gap remains. NCII can continue to circulate online years after the image was posted. While many sites will eventually remove the content when prompted, around 10% don't. There is yet not enough in the government's proposals in the Crime and Policing Bill to address this concern. We would love to see the government bring forward amendments to the Crime and Policing Bill to make possession of NCII an offence, in addition to its creation. This will put NCII on the same footing as CSAM in how it is treated online, and we hope will provide the necessary encouragement to block or disrupt access to such content which has been hosted overseas in particular. There's also work that we are doing on community cohesion, gendered Islamophobia, shared parental leave, women in business and entrepreneurs, which is incredibly important because the government is focused on growth. Women must play a significant part of that. So there's a lot that I could talk about. There's far too much in this speech already, and I'm sure that there'll be loads in this debate. But we live in an increasingly divisive world, and women are at the sharp end of it. Why do we even need International Women's Day debate? To be honest, I wish we didn't. I really wish we didn't. But we need it because progress is not inevitable. We're seeing in countries like Iraq the lowering of age of consent to 9. 9 and consent. Those two words do not go together. A child cannot give consent. Women's bodies being used as weapons of war in the Democratic Republic of Congo, in Kashmir, in the Middle East, in Xinjiang. The list goes on. It is harder to be a woman than it should be. One day, I really hope that we won't need International Women's Day to highlight the problems or ask for action, but to celebrate the progress. Because there has been progress made, and I want to end on a high note, which is sport. Women's sport, love it, absolutely adore it. I know that there are some big fans here. From the Lionesses to Luton Town Ladies, there are fantastic successes, and I am so glad that when I said to my 5-year-old girl now, I was like all excited when the Lionesses were on television. I was like, look at this, look at women's football, it's on the television. She looked at me and she went, yeah, shrugged her shoulders. And for her, this is the norm. Yeah. It's not something special. For me, it's something special to see that. But for her, it's the norm. And I want it to be the norm for every little girl in our country. Yeah. And now I'm going to do something a little bit left field for me. I went to an event, a sports event, a Sky Sports event, and it was fantastic. Sporty Spice was there, so the 16-year-old me was even more excited than in the cockpit of a plane. But there were sportswomen, fantastic sportswomen, but also the people that support and show that sport and show that there is money to be had from it and that there is progress to be had from it and that people want to watch it and people want to consume it and people want to cheer from the stands. They want to cheer sportswomen on. And at the start of it, there was this incredible spoken word piece. There was also a song, I'm not going to sing, don't worry, by a fantastic and beautiful artist called Sophia Tucker. We all know that famous Barbie monologue. We've all heard it, haven't we? For me, this just goes one step further, and I'm going to read and end by reading just a little bit of what she said. It's called Gladiators. They say you're strong for a girl, or fast for a woman. How can she be a girl? How can gold be a woman? They call you a butterfly because they see those wings. I know you're the eagle type, high above these things. They say act like a girl, but the whole world wouldn't be if we deceived our power. The land trembles as we rise, from the dust came our towers, but we meet these mountains that we are expected to climb. But with no sweat, no muscles, no grind, but with makeup and gentleness and the kind of competitiveness that's comfortable for them and kind. They're like, would you mind maintaining your shape, your figure eight? Don't get too strong. Practice a soft voice and some grace. But still win. Still first place, but like a lady might. Funny there. It's when I'm my strongest I feel most like the lady type. When these legs activate and I can jump to crazy heights. When these shoulders broaden and I can carry both the world and its opinion straight to the finish. God bless these arms, the strength in these arms. Ah, how they've held me over the years, and God bless the sisters I have found sat across from my fears. This table is laid before us in the presence of our frenemies. We're celebrated for our wins, whilst they berate our anatomy. To be a woman is to live twice. To live firstly for the thing that you love, and then a second life for the fight. One mind for the gain, and then this other for the might. That it might take to still choose this day after day. So give the girls 2 gold medals. Give the women double pay. Give them triple their portion. Let your applause reverberate. Sing her song. When you sing of the greats and strike for a woman from after her name, because if she has changed the face of the whole game, she is victorious over history. Would you like to be as you grow? Who would you like to become as you age? Would you like to be pretty, have your face across pages, or would you like to be demure, known for your softness and your patience, or a girl? Tell me how you would like to become a gladiator. To all the women gladiators in this place, past and present and outside of this place, thank you. One day, International Women's Day will be about the realisation of all our hopes and ambitions. Until that day, I'm proud to be gladiators with you.